Most people think the awful truth about Mary Cooper is that she's a bad mother. She's not. The awful truth is so much worse than that. The story of Mary Cooper is incredibly complicated, so to help you understand her better, I'm going to break down every key moment that shaped who she is and show how fear can turn even the most loving mother on television into one of the most deeply flawed. And it starts with the kid she chose. Mary Cooper doesn't just pay a little extra attention to Sheldon. She fundamentally restructures the entire Cooper household around his needs, his schedule, his anxieties, and his future. When Sheldon has a problem, the whole family stops. When Sheldon needs something, the budget bends. When he won't eat solid food after a choking scare, the household revolves around that crisis until it's resolved. When he needs a computer for school, George and Mary get into a full-blown argument about finances, because Sheldon's academic requirements always take priority over what the family can actually afford. When Sheldon is scared or upset, Mary is at his side immediately, completely locked in, fully available. And honestly, that sounds like good parenting until you realize what it costs everyone else in the house. Because while Sheldon is getting all of that focus, Missy and Georgie are basically learning to deal with their problems alone. And the show doesn't even try to hide this. It actually tells Mary about it directly, to her face, and she still doesn't fix it. In Season 2, there's a twin study where researchers sit down with the Cooper family. During that study, Mary learned something she probably already knew, but never wanted to hear out loud. Missy feels neglected. Her own daughter, sitting right there, saying she doesn't get enough of her mother's attention. And Mary does respond. She lets Missy pick the restaurant afterward, which sounds nice, except that's it. That is Mary Cooper's full response to being told directly to her face that her daughter feels forgotten. She picks a restaurant. Because years later, in Season 6, the exact same thing happens again. Sheldon is upset about some failed database project, and Mary immediately drops everything to comfort him. And Missy is right there watching it happen. Watching her mom rush to Sheldon's side one more time while she just stands there waiting for a turn that never comes. And this time, Missy doesn't complain about it, she just leaves. That moment in Season 6 leads directly to Missy stealing George's truck and running away with Paige. This isn't a kid throwing a tantrum or rebelling for the fun of it. This is a kid who tried to tell her mother something important years ago, watched nothing change, and finally decided that if nobody in this house is going to see her, she might as well not be in it. And the fact that Mary needs to be told by Mima later in the series that Missy is struggling, that she can't even detect it on her own, tells you how deep this blind spot goes. But here's the part that makes this so much worse, and you need the context from the Big Bang Theory to fully understand it. In an episode called The Sibling Realignment, adult Georgie tells Sheldon what happened after their dad died. Sheldon left for graduate school at Caltech, and Georgie, the kid Mary never seemed to bet on, became the one who held the family together. He took care of a grieving, emotionally wrecked Mary and a teenage Missy while building his own business from nothing. And even after all of that, even after years of Georgie being the responsible one, Mary was still proudest of Sheldon. So the favoritism isn't just a childhood thing that sorts itself out over time, it's permanent. Missy tells Mary she feels invisible, and Mary hears it and still can't change the pattern. Georgie literally carries the family on his back after the worst moment of their lives, and Mary still looks past him toward Sheldon's accomplishments. And at that point, you can't call it fear anymore. If her extra attention toward Sheldon was really about protecting the vulnerable kid, then Georgie proving himself should have changed her mind. It didn't. The cost of being Mary Cooper's favorite is that Sheldon grows up sheltered and entitled, which even adult Sheldon eventually admits. And the cost of not being her favorite is that you either run away like Missy, or you spend your adult life carrying resentment toward a brother who got everything handed to him, like Georgie. But favoritism isn't even the worst thing Mary does. Because when she decides she's protecting someone, she goes so much further than just paying extra attention. She lies, she hides things, she listens in on private conversations, and she makes decisions that affect other people's entire futures without even telling them she did it. And the receipts on this are genuinely disturbing once you lay them all out. There's a difference between being protective and being controlling, and Mary crosses that line so often it basically stops being a line at all. She doesn't just worry about her kids and then let them figure things out. She actively removes choices before anyone even knows those choices existed. And she does it so quietly that most of the time, nobody in the family realizes what happened until it's way too late. The biggest example is Season 3, Episode 21. Sheldon finds out that Mary has been hiding recruitment letters from Caltech and other universities. These are real offers from some of the best schools in the country, and Mary kept them hidden. Not just from Sheldon, from George too. Both of them had no idea these letters existed because Mary decided on her own that Sheldon wasn't ready to leave, and instead of having that conversation with anyone, she removed the option entirely and hoped nobody would find out. And that's not an isolated incident. In Season 3, she eavesdrops on Georgie's private phone call, which makes him furious because he's a teenager trying to have some basic independence, and his mom is literally standing there listening through the door. In Season 5, she turns Sheldon into a spy at a church youth lock-in, using his rule-following personality to monitor the other kids and report back to her. She's essentially deputizing her own child to do surveillance, because she can't be everywhere at once, and that drives her crazy. By Season 7, Sheldon is in Germany for a summer academic program, and instead of exploring and growing up the way a teenager abroad should, he's sneaking around behind Mary's back. He lies about where he goes, what he does, who he sees. And that's not because Sheldon is a natural liar. It's because Mary's supervision has become so suffocating that dishonesty is easier than asking for permission. Her overprotection has trained her kids to be secretive, which is the exact opposite of what she says she wants from them. And every single one of these moments comes from a place that sounds reasonable if you describe it in one sentence. She hid the letters because she didn't want to lose her son. She listened to Georgie's call because she was worried about him. She used Sheldon as a lookout because she wanted to make sure the church kids were safe. But the result is always the same. Someone Mary loves loses the ability to make a decision for themselves, and someone in the family learns that the only way to have any freedom around Mary Cooper is to hide things from her. Which is exactly what George starts doing. And it's exactly what leads to the slow collapse of their marriage. But we'll get to that. Because before you can understand why George pulls away, or why the marriage falls apart, or why the ending of this show hits so hard, you need to understand one crucial thing first. Mary Cooper was not always like this. There was a version of her that smoked, drank, broke rules, and didn't spend her weekends at church. Something happened that completely rewired who she was as a person. And once you hear what it was, everything about her, the favoritism, the control, the religious certainty, all of it makes a terrifying kind of sense. Before she became the Mary Cooper everyone recognizes, she was basically a different human being. The show describes young Mary as someone who smoked, drank, partied, and had very little interest in organized religion. She met George in 1974, got pregnant with Georgie, and married George partly to avoid the scandal of an out-of-wedlock pregnancy. That's not the biography of a woman who was born clutching a Bible. That's the story of a woman who became religious because something cracked her wide open and faith poured in to fill the space. In Season 2, Episode 14, Mima sits Missy down and tells her the real story of how Mary changed. When the twins were born, there were serious complications. Mary genuinely believed her newborn daughter was going to die. She was in that hospital room, completely powerless, watching her baby struggle, and in that moment, she turned to God. She made some kind of deal, a promise, a bargain, whatever you want to call it. And when Missy survived, Mary kept her end. She became devout, she became born again. She rebuilt her entire identity around faith and the conviction that God saved her daughter's life. That single night in a hospital room is the origin point of everything we've been talking about. Every prayer, every church function, every Bible study, every argument about sin and salvation, and what's appropriate. All of it traces back to a mother who thought she was watching her baby die, and swore to God she'd be a different person if he let her child live. And the show even gives us a moment where that faith gets tested. In Season 2, a teenage girl in Mary's congregation dies, and Mary has a full crisis of faith. She questions God, questions whether any of it matters, and it's Sheldon, her atheist son, who helps her recover her belief. Which means even the one time Mary's religious certainty wavers, the person who pulls her back in is the same child she's been pouring all her energy into. Their bond is that deep and that codependent. Once you know this, every section of this video rearranges itself. The favoritism toward Sheldon isn't just preference or laziness, it's fear. His social struggles, his inability to read danger, his differences that make him vulnerable in a small Texas town. All of those things terrify Mary because she has already lived through the worst moment a parent can experience. Every decision she makes after that delivery room is an attempt to guarantee it never happens again. She hides the college letters because letting Sheldon go feels like inviting the same terror she felt when she thought she was going to lose Missy. She monitors Georgie because a teenager making risky decisions is a teenager she can't protect. She controls everything because control is the only barrier she has between her family and the randomness of a world that almost killed her daughter. And if the story ended here, Mary Cooper would be one of the most sympathetic characters on television, a scared mother doing everything she can to keep her family safe. But the story doesn't end here, because the show gives her direct, unmistakable warnings that what she's doing is hurting her children. Not hints, not subtext, people telling her to her face, and she doesn't stop. Understanding why Mary is afraid doesn't change the fact that she was given every chance to fix the pattern and chose not to. And here's where it gets truly uncomfortable, because Mary doesn't just use fear to fuel her parenting. She uses God as the engine that runs the whole thing. And when you combine a mother's panic with the absolute certainty that you're doing the Lord's work, you get someone who is nearly impossible to argue with. Someone who can override anyone's wishes, anyone's boundaries, anyone's autonomy, and feel completely justified doing it. Because in her mind, she's not being controlling. She's being faithful. Mary's faith gives her something no other character on this show has: the ability to end any argument by making it about God. When Mary decides something, it's never just her opinion or her personal preference. It's what's right. It's what's moral. It's what the Lord expects. And because the people around her, George, the kids, even Meemaw, all know that challenging Mary means challenging her entire belief system, most of the time they just give in or go around her, which means Mary almost never has to defend her decisions on their actual merits. She just has to frame them as righteousness, and the conversation is over. This pattern shows up across the entire run of the show. In season 2, she runs a hell house at church designed to literally scare children and teenagers away from sin through graphic depictions of damnation. In season 4, she forces Sheldon into Vacation Bible School, even though he has told her plainly and repeatedly that he doesn't believe in God. In season 3, when a university offers George a well-paying position, partly because they want access to Sheldon, Mary reframes the whole conversation around greed being a sin and tries to purge the temptation from the household instead of weighing the financial benefit honestly. But the most extreme example comes in season 7. Mary joins a prosperity-oriented church, starts donating family money, and when she receives an $800 tax refund, she interprets it as literal proof that God is rewarding her financial faith. Her confidence in the new ministry eventually falls apart, and she returns to Pastor Jeff. Which sounds like real growth, right? Like she actually learned something? Except almost immediately after going back to Jeff's church, she secretly baptizes her granddaughter Cece without telling Mandy or Georgie. She just takes the baby and does it. And when Missy catches Mary and Pastor Jeff at the sink, Mary claims they're just washing Cece's hair, and then the show delivers the sharpest mirror it possibly could.
Just washing Cece's hair.
With Pastor Jeff?
Cece's other grandmother, Audrey McAllister, is Mandy's Catholic mother. And Audrey does the exact same thing. She arranges her own secret Catholic baptism for Cece behind everyone's back. So now this baby has been baptized twice by two grandmothers who both decided their denomination was more important than the parents' right to make that choice. Georgie and Mandy are so disgusted by the whole thing that they throw out the church wedding entirely and get married at City Hall instead. Mary can see exactly what's wrong when Audrey does it. She feels the violation. She understands that another adult making religious decisions for someone else's child is a line you don't cross. But she cannot see that she crossed it first. She's so certain that her version of faith is the correct one that she genuinely cannot process the idea that what she did to Cece is the same thing Audrey did, And that certainty doesn't just damage her relationships with her kids and her granddaughter. It slowly eats through the most important relationship in her life. And here's the cruel irony of it all. The church that Mary built her entire identity around, the institution she served as secretary, as counselor, as event planner, as the person Pastor Jeff leaned on for everything, that same church turned its back on her family the moment Georgie got Mandy pregnant. The congregation she'd served for years gossiped about the Coopers, made them feel unwelcome, and treated Mary like she was responsible for her teenage son's choices. She lost her job, her community, her social circle, and her sense of purpose all at once. And even after experiencing that kind of rejection from organized religion, she still went back. She returned to Pastor Jeff's church because she needed it more than it needed her. That's how deep the dependency runs. So everything we just talked about, the control, the hidden letters, the arguments that always end with God on Mary's side, all of that was happening inside a marriage too. George was living with this every single day. And by the time either of them realizes how much damage has built up, they're completely out of time. The Cooper marriage has real warmth in it. There are moments where you can see these two people genuinely love each other. But underneath that is a cycle of secrecy and avoidance that neither of them ever breaks. They hide information, they make major decisions without consulting each other. And when the tension gets bad enough, they both drift toward people outside the marriage for the emotional connection they're not getting at home. And Mary's position as the moral authority in the house makes honest conversation nearly impossible, because George knows that disagreeing with her doesn't just mean a fight. It means being told he's wrong by someone who thinks God agrees with her. It starts building early. In season 2, George gets offered a better paying coaching job in Tulsa. The family doesn't want to relocate, so George turns it down. And the resentment from that sacrifice never fully goes away, because George gave up his professional future for a family that doesn't always acknowledge what he gave up to stay. By season 3, he discovers that Mary hid Sheldon's college recruitment letters, and his anger goes beyond the letters themselves. He's furious about being excluded from a decision that affects his son's entire future. Mary made that call completely alone and never told him it happened. Then things get progressively worse. By season 5, George is spending time at Brenda Sparks' house, doing handyman work and having private conversations. Mary is developing an emotional closeness with Pastor Rob, the youth pastor she helped hire. The show never verifies either relationship as a physical affair, but the emotional intimacy on both sides is obvious, and both George and Mary know it about each other. By season 6, their granddaughter Cece is being born, and during the chaos of Mandy going into labor, George and Mary aren't holding each other together. They're throwing Brenda and Rob in each other's faces, accusing each other of emotional betrayal while their grandchild is literally entering the world around them. Then comes season 7, episode 11. George becomes convinced that Mary wants another baby. And instead of sitting down and talking to her about it like two adults who've been married for over 20 years, he secretly gets a vasectomy. He would rather undergo a medical procedure behind his wife's back than have one honest conversation about their future together. And that tells you everything about what this marriage has become. Two people who genuinely love each other, but have spent so many years hiding things and avoiding hard truths that secrecy has become their default language. George dies of a heart attack at the end of season 7, episode 12. And when he goes, he takes with him every argument that never got finished, every secret that never got confessed, every accusation that never got answered. Mary tries to deliver a eulogy at his funeral, and she can't get through it. She breaks down, but not from sadness, from anger, because she knows on some level that they ran out of time before they ran out of problems. And what happens next is the single most important sequence in the entire series for understanding who Mary Cooper really is. Because 27 days after George's funeral, Mary doesn't sit with her children. She doesn't ask Sheldon how he's processing the loss. She doesn't notice that Missy has gone quiet and is barely functioning. She does the only thing she's ever known how to do when the world feels like it's falling apart. She reaches for God. And she drags her children into it whether they want to come or not. George's death triggers the exact same response in Mary that Missy's birth triggered more than a decade earlier. She loses someone, the grief is unbearable, and instead of sitting in the pain and being present with the people who need her most, she reverts to ritual, prayer and religious control. The coping mechanism that was born in a hospital room in 1980 fires right back up in 1994, like nothing in between was ever learned. In the finale, 27 days after the funeral, Mary tells Sheldon and Missy that they need to be baptized. Missy, who has been shutting down emotionally since George died, is barely responding to anyone. And it's not Mary who notices this, it's Meemaw. For the third time in the series, someone has to tell Mary directly that she is missing what her children actually need. Meemaw pulls her aside and says the twins don't need more prayers right now, they need their mother. And just like the first 2 times, it doesn't change what Mary does next. At the church, Missy refuses. She's angry, she's grieving, and she is not going to perform a religious ritual to make her mother feel better about death. Missy has earned the right to say no to this, because she spent her entire childhood being the kid who didn't get chosen, and she is not going to let that pattern define the worst moment of her life too. Sheldon agrees to be baptized, but not because he found God. He doesn't believe in any of it. He's been an atheist for the entire run of the show, and that hasn't changed. He does it because he believes in Mary. He sees how much pain she's in, and he decides that performing this one act for her is worth more than standing on his own principles. Adult Sheldon later says the ear infection he got from the baptism water was worth enduring because it made his mother happy. That baptism scene is the entire show compressed into a single moment. Mary's love is real. You can feel it in how desperately she needs to believe her family is going to be okay. Even if her definition of okay is something only she believes in, Sheldon's sacrifice is real. A kid who built his entire identity around logic and evidence, abandoning all of it because his mom needs him to. And the damage is real too. Missy needed her mother in that room and got a religious ultimatum instead. Sheldon had to abandon who he actually is to emotionally support the parent who was supposed to be supporting him. And after this, Sheldon leaves for Caltech, and Georgie becomes the one who takes care of Mary and Missy. The kid she overlooked becomes her lifeline, while the kid she coddled moves across the country. And the pattern that started with a terrified young woman bargaining with God in a delivery room has been running for 14 years without a single interruption, through hidden letters and eavesdropped calls and secret baptisms, and a marriage full of things that never got said out loud. And it's still running right now, in this church, at the exact moment when changing it matters the most. Adult Sheldon eventually writes that his parents' unconditional support mattered profoundly. And he's right. But so is everything else. Mary Cooper loved her family more than anything in her life. And that love, filtered through fear and an unshakable belief that she was always right, left marks on every single person she was trying to protect. The show told her, Missy told her, Meemaw told her. She had every chance to see what she was doing and every reason to change. And she kept going anyway. That's the awful truth. If you like this, you'll love this video right here.